Legislation will be introduced to strengthen the United Kingdom's energy security and reduce reliance on volatile international energy markets and hostile foreign regimes. This bill will support the future licensing of new oil and gas fields.
The royal family just exploded. King Charles has done the unthinkable, signing off on a decision that's left the world in absolute shock. Meghan's children removed from the line of succession. But that's not even the craziest part. Sources say she's completely lost it, and what she did next will leave your jaw on the floor.
Different situation for all of us. And, Archie was so little, and I had just gotten pregnant with Lily around that same time. So we were nesting and healing. And also, I don't even know I had the bandwidth at that time to think about what the big picture dream was.
Harry is spiraling. The palace is in panic mode, and the truth behind this royal warfare is darker than anyone imagined. You won't believe what really went down. Before diving into the details, it's worth noting that Prince Harry and Meghan have 2 children together. Their son Archie was born in May 2019, and their daughter Lilibet was born in June 2021. Both children were born into the line of succession by virtue of their father's position as a son of the then Prince Charles. The question of their place in this line has become intertwined with the broader story of their parents' difficult relationship with the royal institution. The reports suggest that King Charles has formally signed documents that would remove these children from the succession. If true, this would represent a dramatic escalation in the ongoing family dispute. The decision allegedly came after multiple attempts by the king to visit his grandchildren were unsuccessful. Palace insiders have indicated that King Charles made several efforts to build a relationship with Archie and Lilibet, but these attempts were reportedly declined by Meghan and Harry. According to sources close to the situation, Meghan's refusal to facilitate these visits stems from her belief that the royal family has not treated her and Harry fairly. The couple has been vocal about their experiences within the institution, particularly regarding the lack of support they received when facing intense media scrutiny. From their perspective, the royal family's failure to protect them from what they saw as unfair and sometimes racist media coverage created a situation where trust became impossible. The announcement of this alleged decision has reportedly come as a surprise to both Harry and Meghan. Despite the ongoing tensions and their physical distance from the United Kingdom, they apparently did not anticipate such a significant move. Many people who have followed this situation believe that the relationship between the couple and the royal family was gradually improving, or at least stabilizing. This development, if accurate, suggests that the rift remains deeper than many realized. The timing of this reported decision is particularly interesting. King Charles ascended to the throne in September 2022 following the death of Queen Elizabeth. During his mother's reign, there were established protocols and a certain way of handling family matters. Charles now has the authority to make decisions about many aspects of royal life, including titles, styles, and public roles. However, the question of succession is far more complicated than simply issuing a royal decree. Public reaction to these reports has been mixed. Some people sympathize with King Charles, arguing that as a grandfather, he has a right to see his grandchildren, and that Meghan and Harry's decisions have made this impossible. Others view any move to affect the children's position in the succession as unnecessarily harsh, pointing out that Archie and Lilibet are innocent parties in their parents' disputes with the institution. The situation has also reignited debates about how the royal family handles internal conflicts. Traditionally, the British monarchy has operated with a degree of privacy regarding family matters. However, Harry and Meghan's decision to speak publicly about their experiences, most notably in their interview with Oprah Winfrey in March 2021 and in Harry's memoir published in January 2023, has changed this dynamic. The couple has shared details about their struggles that previous generations would have kept private. In that now famous Oprah interview, Harry and Meghan made several serious allegations. They discussed concerns that were raised about their son Archie's skin color before he was born. They talked about Meghan's mental health struggles and her claim that the institution denied her access to help. They also described a lack of support when dealing with negative press coverage. These revelations created a significant rupture in the family's public image and made reconciliation more difficult. Harry has spoken about his concerns for his family's safety and well-being. In various interviews, he has explained that he felt he had no choice but to step back from royal duties. He described seeing patterns that reminded him of what happened to his mother, Princess Diana, and wanting to prevent history from repeating itself. His decision to relocate to California with Meghan and their children was presented as necessary for their mental health and physical safety. Meghan's response to the current situation has been described as unexpected by those reporting on it. While the specific details of her reaction have not been fully disclosed, the fact that it has generated attention suggests it departed from what people anticipated. Given her previous statements about the royal family and her experiences within it, any response from Meghan naturally attracts significant interest. The children at the centre of this controversy are still very young. Archie is currently 4 years old, and Lilibet is 2. They are growing up in California, far from the traditions and protocols of royal life in Britain. Unlike their cousins, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, who are being raised within the working royal family, Archie and Lilibet are experiencing a completely different childhood. This distance, both physical and institutional, makes the question of their place in the succession line particularly complex. It's important to understand what being in the line of succession actually means for these children. The line of succession determines who would become monarch if everyone ahead of them were unable to do so. Given that there are currently many people ahead of Archie and Lilibet in this line, including Prince William and his 3 children, the practical likelihood of either of them ever becoming monarch is extremely remote. Nevertheless, their position in this line has symbolic importance and comes with certain expectations and potential responsibilities. The question that naturally arises from these reports is whether King Charles actually has the authority to make such a change. Can a reigning monarch simply decide to remove someone from the line of succession? This question gets to the heart of how the British constitutional monarchy actually operates. The answer is not as straightforward as it might seem, and understanding it requires looking at the legal framework that governs royal succession. To properly understand whether King Charles can remove anyone from the line of succession, we need to look at how this system developed over centuries. The English monarchy didn't start with written rules or formal laws about who could inherit the throne. In the earliest days, succession was based largely on tradition, family relationships, and whatever arrangements seemed most likely to keep the kingdom stable. When a king died, the crown typically passed to his closest male relative, and people generally accepted this because the alternative was often chaos and civil war. During these early periods, the idea that a monarch could personally decide who stayed in or left the line of succession wasn't really discussed. Succession worked because it followed bloodlines in a relatively predictable way. People understood that the eldest son would inherit, and if there was no son, then other rules would apply. This wasn't written down in any formal legal document. It was simply how things were done, passed down through generations as accepted practice. As England's political landscape became more complex, particularly during periods of religious and political conflict, Parliament began to take a more active role in matters of succession. What had once been purely a family matter gradually became something that lawmakers felt they needed to control. Parliament wanted to ensure stability, especially after the country had experienced civil wars and disputes over who had the legitimate right to rule. This pressure from Parliament slowly transformed succession from an informal tradition into a matter of formal law. The shift surprised many people at the time because it fundamentally changed the nature of royal authority. What once seemed like a natural family order was becoming a legal matter controlled by elected representatives. The monarch's power to determine their own successor was being restricted by parliamentary legislation. This represented a significant change in the balance of power between the Crown and Parliament. One of the most important moments in this transformation came in 1689 with the passage of the Bill of Rights. This legislation was created to resolve major political and religious disputes that had threatened to tear the country apart. Among its many provisions, it established the first clear legal rules about who could inherit the throne. The Bill of Rights specifically named certain individuals who would take the throne and also created restrictions based on religion. Notably, it limited the rights of anyone who was Catholic or who married a Catholic. This was genuinely new. For the first time in English history, Parliament was openly shaping the line of succession through legislation, rather than simply accepting whatever the royal family decided. By taking this step, lawmakers made it absolutely clear that the Crown could no longer control its own future without parliamentary approval. Succession was no longer just about bloodlines and family connections. It had become something that Parliament had the final authority over. This parliamentary control grew even stronger with the Act of Settlement in 1701. This law tightened the rules around succession considerably. It stated explicitly that only Protestant heirs could inherit the throne, completely excluding Catholics from the succession. The Act of Settlement also placed significant limits on the monarch's authority in other areas, further pushing the monarchy under Parliament's supervision and control. After this law was passed, the idea of a king or queen removing someone from the line of succession became virtually impossible. The power simply didn't belong to the monarch anymore. Parliament had built a system that made succession a matter of national law, not royal preference or personal choice. These rules remained in place for centuries, largely untouched but carefully followed. Every monarch who came to the throne did so because Parliament's laws said they could, not because the previous monarch had chosen them. In the early 2000s, public attitudes about equality and fairness began to evolve in ways that made some of the old succession rules seem outdated. Parliament decided that these ancient laws no longer reflected modern British society and its values. This led to an important piece of legislation called the Succession to the Crown Act of 2013, which brought several significant changes to how succession works. One of the biggest changes was the end of male preference primogeniture. Under the old system, a younger son could jump ahead of an older daughter in the line of succession, simply because he was male. This meant that even if a king had an older daughter and a younger son, the son would inherit the throne before his sister. The 2013 Act removed this gender discrimination entirely. Now, birth order matters more than gender. If a monarch's first child is a daughter, she will inherit the throne regardless of whether she has younger brothers. The 2013 Act also changed the rule that had barred anyone who married a Catholic from inheriting the throne. This old rule had pushed several heirs aside throughout British history, creating complications and forcing people to choose between their faith and their position in the succession. With the new law, marrying a Catholic no longer automatically removes someone from the line of succession. However, the rule that the monarch themselves must be Protestant remained in place because the monarch is also the head of the Church of England. At the same time, the 2013 legislation replaced the Royal Marriages Act of 1772, which had created its own set of problems. The old law made marriages invalid unless the reigning monarch approved them in advance. This had created real difficulties in the past because children born from unapproved marriages were considered illegitimate and therefore unable to inherit the throne. The new act removed that risk entirely, modernizing how royal marriages are treated under law. Looking back at historical examples helps illustrate how removal from succession actually works. One of the clearest cases came in 1936 when King Edward VIII chose to give up the throne in order to marry Wallis Simpson, an American woman who had been divorced twice. Edward couldn't simply walk away from being king. Parliament had to pass a specific law called His Majesty's Declaration of Abdication Act to make his departure official and legal. That legislation also specifically removed any future children Edward might have from the line of succession. This remains one of the strongest pieces of evidence that only Parliament, not the monarch, can remove someone from the succession. Even Edward himself, who was actually the king at the time, couldn't change his own position or that of his potential heirs without Parliament passing a law to allow it. The pattern has remained consistent every time the question comes up. Any changes to the succession require a legal process involving Parliament, not just a royal command or decision. On top of that, because the British monarch serves as head of state for several Commonwealth countries, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, those nations also have to agree to any changes. Laws in these Commonwealth realms must align with changes made in the United Kingdom. This adds another significant layer of protection that prevents any one person, including the king or queen, from unilaterally changing the succession line. Even though monarchs cannot change who inherits the crown, they do retain some authority in related areas. They can issue documents called letters patent, which allow them to change someone's title, style, or honour. For example, they can decide who is formally called a prince or princess, or who gets to use the style His Royal Highness or Her Royal Highness. These decisions about titles and styles are within the monarch's power to make. However, these changes to titles don't affect succession at all. A title is fundamentally different from a legal right to inherit the throne. a person can lose their style or royal honours and still remain exactly where they were in the line of succession. The law makes a very clear separation between personal rank and titles on one hand, and constitutional inheritance rights on the other. Someone might not be called His Royal Highness anymore, but they're still in line for the throne unless Parliament specifically passes legislation to remove them. This explains why modern succession is almost entirely controlled by statute law. Everything rests on specific pieces of legislation like the Bill of Rights, the Act of Settlement, and the Succession to the Crown Act. These statutes create the rules, and no individual monarch has the authority to override them or ignore them. The king cannot decide on his own to remove anyone from succession, regardless of the situation, the level of public pressure, or family disputes. While it's true that Meghan's children cannot be removed from the line of succession without an Act of Parliament, the conflict between Harry, Meghan, and the royal family has affected them in numerous other significant ways. The consequences of their decision to step back from royal life have been far-reaching and have touched nearly every aspect of how they function both publicly and privately. When Prince Harry and Meghan announced in January 2020 that they would be stepping back from their roles as senior working members of the royal family, the impact was immediate and substantial. The decision meant they would no longer function in the same capacity as Prince William, Kate, or other working royals who perform public duties on behalf of the monarchy. From that moment forward, their role within the institution changed into something completely different from the structure they had been part of since their marriage in May 2018. In their announcement, Harry and Meghan stated their intention to work toward financial independence. This was a significant departure from how senior royals typically operate. The palace had to reshape its expectations and arrangements around them to reflect this new position. Every aspect of their royal identity needed to be adjusted to fit the reality that they were no longer frontline representatives of the crown. This wasn't just a matter of public perception. It involved concrete changes to their duties, their funding, and their official status. As it became clear in early 2021 that Harry and Meghan would not be returning to their former roles, Buckingham Palace confirmed that several important patronages and honorary positions connected to them would need to be returned. These weren't minor responsibilities. Many of these roles had deep connections to charities, cultural institutions, and military organizations that depended heavily on the visibility and support that a working royal provides. By giving up these positions, the couple stepped away from an extensive institutional network that had once linked them to major public-facing organizations across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. Some of these patronages had been particularly meaningful to Harry. His military connections, for instance, were extremely important to him, given his own service in the British Army. He had served for 10 years, including 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. The honorary military appointments he held weren't just ceremonial titles to him, they represented a genuine connection to the armed forces and to the men and women who serve. Losing these positions was reportedly one of the more difficult aspects of stepping back from royal duties. A significant part of the transition involved changes to how Harry and Meghan could present themselves publicly. They were no longer allowed to use the style of His Royal Highness and Her Royal Highness in any official capacity. While they technically retained these styles, the palace made it absolutely clear that they could not be used in any working context or public setting. This decision placed a firm boundary around how they could present themselves, especially at events where royal protocol matters. The change didn't remove their identities as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They kept those titles and continue to use them. However, it fundamentally redefined how those titles function now that they are no longer active representatives of the sovereign. In practical terms, this means that at formal events involving the royal family, they are treated differently than working members of the family. The distinction might seem subtle to outside observers, but within the context of royal protocol, it represents a significant shift in status. The financial implications of stepping back were perhaps the most dramatic change in their daily lives. Harry and Meghan no longer receive any support from the Sovereign Grant, which is the annual funding that the British government provides to the monarchy to carry out official duties. They also lost access to funding through the Duchy of Cornwall, which traditionally supports the heir to the throne and his immediate family. Historically, much of Harry's royal work and his household expenses had been supported through these channels. Once those resources ended, Harry and Meghan became completely responsible for generating their own income. This necessity led directly to the commercial projects and business ventures that followed. They signed a major deal with Netflix, reportedly worth around $100 million, to produce documentaries, docuseries, feature films, scripted shows, and children's programming. They also signed a deal with Spotify to produce and host podcasts, though that partnership ended in 2023 after producing only one series. Harry also signed a contract to write his memoir, which was published in January 2023 under the title Spare. The book became an immediate bestseller, breaking records for first-day sales of non-fiction books. In it, Harry shared previously private details about his life within the royal family, his relationship with his brother, William, and his experiences with the British press. The book generated enormous publicity and controversy, further straining his relationship with his family. Beyond these major deals, the couple has engaged in various speaking engagements, appeared at corporate events, and launched their own production company called Archewell Productions. They've also established the Archewell Foundation, their non-profit organization focused on various charitable initiatives. All of these ventures represent their effort to build financial independence while maintaining some form of public service and advocacy work. However, one of the most contentious and complicated issues that emerged from their departure was the question of security. This didn't just happen overnight. The problem began in early 2020 when the couple officially stepped down as senior working royals and subsequently moved to the United States. With that decision, they automatically lost the taxpayer-funded security protection that comes standard with being active members of the royal family. At first, many people assumed Harry and Meghan would quietly arrange their own private security and that would be the end of it. But the matter quickly became far more complicated, particularly when Harry needed to return to the United Kingdom for various events and family occasions. The security issue became not just a practical concern, but a major legal battle that has consumed significant time, money, and public attention. Prince Harry has argued consistently that even as a non-working royal, he and his family still face serious and credible security threats. His reasoning is that he remains a high-profile member of the royal family regardless of his working status, and that his military service, particularly his time in Afghanistan, makes him a specific target for potential threats. He offered to personally pay for police protection while visiting the UK, believing this would resolve the issue. However, the Home Office, which oversees national security matters, rejected that proposal. In response to this rejection, Harry took legal action against the British government. This wasn't just a single case. He launched multiple legal challenges, each attempting to address different aspects of the security question. The first major case challenged the government's decision to deny him automatic police protection when visiting Britain. He wanted a judicial review of how these decisions were being made and whether they were lawful given his circumstances. The High Court ultimately ruled against Harry on this matter. The judges acknowledged that he had legitimate security concerns and that his arguments were made in good faith. However, they maintained that the government had acted lawfully and that its decision was neither irrational nor procedurally improper. The court said that the government had the right to set its own security policies and to make decisions about how taxpayer-funded protection is allocated. Another legal case involved Harry's offer to pay out of pocket for specialist UK police protection. He argued that he should be allowed to hire metropolitan police officers for his security when in Britain, essentially treating police protection as a service he could purchase. Once again, that request was denied. Government officials argued that public police officers are not available for private hire, even if someone is willing and able to pay the full cost. They maintained that police resources must be allocated based on assessed need and public interest, not on an individual's ability to pay. Beyond the security battles, Prince Harry also launched multiple lawsuits against some of the largest media organizations in the United Kingdom. These cases involve very serious allegations, including phone hacking, unlawful information gathering, and sustained privacy violations going back many years. Harry accused several tabloid newspapers of using illegal methods to obtain information about his private life, including during his teenage years and throughout his relationship with Meghan. These legal cases weren't small matters handled quickly behind closed doors. They stretched over months, and in some cases years, cost millions of pounds in legal fees, and required Harry to appear in court to give testimony. This was historically significant because it's extremely rare for a member of the royal family to take the witness stand in open court. One major case was against Mirror Group newspapers, publishers of the Daily Mirror. In that case, Harry became the first senior royal in over a century to testify in court, sitting in the witness box and answering questions under oath. Some of his legal claims were successful. In certain rulings, British courts agreed that Harry's privacy had been violated and that newspapers had used unlawful methods to gather information about him. Damages were awarded in some cases, and media organisations were held accountable for their actions. However, these legal victories came with their own costs. Every court appearance, every filing, and every judgment became a new story in the press. The legal battles kept Harry and Meghan in the headlines constantly, often in ways that generated fresh criticism and scrutiny. For Meghan, one of the most high-profile legal victories came in her case against the Mail on Sunday. The newspaper had published portions of a private, handwritten letter she had sent to her estranged father, Thomas Markle. Meghan sued for breach of privacy and copyright infringement. The court sided with her decisively, ruling that the publication was a clear and serious breach of her privacy rights. The judgment was seen as a significant victory, though the case also kept family tensions in the public eye. These lawsuits marked a sharp departure from the traditional royal approach to dealing with the press. Historically, the royal family's motto has been never complain, never explain. Members of the family typically do not sue newspapers or respond publicly to negative coverage. The thinking is that doing so only generates more attention and gives stories longer life in the news cycle. Harry and Meghan's willingness to take legal action represented a fundamental break from this long-standing policy, and it drew criticism from some quarters even as others praised them for standing up for their rights. The question of what caused the original rift between Prince Harry and the royal family is complex and multifaceted. Long before Harry and Meghan's wedding in May 2018, there were already concerns within the royal household about the relationship and how quickly it was moving forward. Senior figures within the institution had spent decades observing how royal marriages unfold, and they had a strong understanding of the pressures and challenges that come with marrying into the family. From their perspective, Harry and Meghan's relationship had progressed very quickly from their first meeting to serious commitment. These concerns weren't expressed through dramatic public objections or attempts to stop the relationship. Instead, they manifested as the kind of cautious hesitation that often shapes internal royal discussions when someone new is joining the family. Meghan brought a background that was different from what the institution typically encountered. She had worked as a professional actress, she had been previously married, and she had lived most of her life in a world far removed from the aristocratic and royal circles that usually surrounded the family. These factors made certain members of the institution more attentive and perhaps more watchful than they might otherwise have been. As soon as Meghan became publicly known as Harry's girlfriend, the media attention intensified to an extraordinary degree. Royal advisors immediately took note of how quickly and intensely the news coverage focused on her. Unlike some previous royal partners who were relatively unknown to the public, Meghan was already a recognizable figure due to her role in the television series Suits. The palace team anticipated that her existing public profile would generate a different kind of media coverage than what they were accustomed to managing. That prediction proved accurate almost immediately. The nature of the press coverage became problematic very early on. Many of the first articles about Meghan carried racial undertones that had not been used when covering previous royal partners. Some newspapers focused on her mixed-race heritage in ways that many people found offensive and inappropriate. Headlines and articles compared her background unfavorably to Kate Middleton's, often in ways that seemed to have racial implications. This pattern was noticed quickly, and it became one of the first clear warning signs that Meghan's experience with the British press would be fundamentally different from what other royals had faced. Harry reacted to this coverage with unusual speed and directness. In November 2016, before he and Meghan were even engaged, he released a strongly worded public statement through his communications secretary. The statement explicitly asked the press to stop what it described as the abuse and harassment Meghan was facing. It specifically mentioned the racial undertones in some articles and the sexist commentary that had appeared in various publications. For a royal, especially one who wasn't yet married, issuing such a statement so early in a relationship was virtually unprecedented. The problem was that while Harry saw the situation as urgent and requiring immediate action, the palace institution responded with its traditional slow and cautious approach. The royal family has long operated under the principle of ignoring negative press coverage rather than responding to it. This fundamental mismatch in approach created the first significant crack between Harry and the institutional machinery of the monarchy. Harry wanted protection and active pushback against what he saw as unfair treatment. The institution offered the standard advice to keep quiet and let the stories fade away. Once Meghan officially joined the royal family after the wedding, internal tensions started to surface more clearly. Reports began to emerge of disagreements between Meghan and some palace employees. Staff members reportedly said that her expectations were very high and that she could be demanding in her requests. From Meghan's perspective, she was simply asking for reasonable accountability and competence from the people working for her. She didn't see her expectations as unreasonable at all. She believed she was being professional and direct in the way she had been throughout her career. Internal complaints were filed by some staff members, and these complaints eventually reached journalists. The details became public, which only intensified the negative coverage Meghan was receiving. This represented a significant escalation because it suggested problems weren't just coming from outside media sources, but from within the palace walls themselves. Whether these complaints were legitimate workplace grievances, or whether they reflected cultural clashes between Meghan's direct American communication style and the more formal British royal household culture, remains a matter of debate. The situation became even more complicated in the days leading up to the wedding. Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, began giving interviews to tabloid newspapers and sharing private text messages with journalists. His actions created a series of headlines that the palace had no ability to control. Each day seemed to bring a new revelation or a new interview, and the drama overshadowed what should have been a joyful time leading up to the wedding. Thomas Markle ultimately did not attend the wedding, citing health issues, though questions remained about his real reasons for staying away. This family drama added another layer of stress and made the entire situation more difficult to manage. The palace communications team was dealing with negative stories coming from multiple directions simultaneously. For Harry and Meghan, it must have felt overwhelming and impossible to escape. The constant stream of negative coverage was affecting their mental health and their ability to focus on their royal duties. However, the situation took a much more serious turn when Harry and Meghan made allegations about conversations within the royal family itself. In their March 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, they revealed that there had been concerns expressed by a member of the royal family about how dark their son Archie's skin might be when he was born. This allegation completely changed the nature of the conflict. What had been a story about media coverage and institutional support suddenly became a story about potential racism within the royal family itself. Harry and Meghan declined to identify which family member had made these comments, saying only that it wasn't Queen Elizabeth or Prince Philip. The allegation shocked many people and generated international headlines. It suggested that the problems Harry and Meghan faced weren't just about adjusting to royal life or dealing with press intrusion. It indicated that there were deeper issues related to race and acceptance within the family structure itself. The couple also discussed Meghan's mental health struggles during the interview. Meghan revealed that she had experienced suicidal thoughts during her pregnancy with Archie, and that when she sought help from the institution, she was told that nothing could be done because it wouldn't be good for the image of the monarchy. This claim painted a picture of an institution more concerned with public perception than with the well-being of its members. These revelations created a situation where reconciliation became much more difficult. The allegations were serious enough that they couldn't simply be ignored or swept aside. They required some kind of response. Yet, the royal family's instinct is always to avoid public discussion of private family matters. The result was a brief statement from Buckingham Palace saying that the issues raised were concerning and would be addressed privately by the family, but also noting that recollections may vary, suggesting there were different perspectives on what had actually been said. Given all of these ongoing tensions and public disputes, speculation has periodically arisen about whether Prince Harry might eventually lose his royal titles. The question of whether a prince can actually be stripped of titles over family conflict is more complicated than many people realise. Under the British royal system, titles are not just names or honorifics. They reflect status, duty, heritage, and position within the national hierarchy. A prince is typically a direct descendant of the monarch, usually a son or grandson. The title indicates both bloodline and seniority within the royal family. Structure. It carries certain expectations and traditionally comes with specific responsibilities. A duke, on the other hand, is a noble rank that can be granted either to royals or to non-royals. While all dukes hold a position in the British nobility, not all of them are royal. Royal dukedoms, like the Duke of Sussex, are typically given by the monarch to male descendants on special occasions, such as marriage. The style His Royal Highness or Her Royal Highness adds a further layer of status and privilege. It signals that the person is an active working royal, with official duties representing the crown. This style is used before a title, as in His Royal Highness Prince William. Not every member of the royal family receives or keeps this style. It depends on their role and their relationship with the reigning monarch. These titles and styles are not automatically inherited or permanent fixtures. They are granted by the reigning monarch and can theoretically be changed or removed under certain conditions. A royal may hold a title by birth, but the monarch retains the power to alter or remove the HRH style or any dukedom they have granted. Titles carry expectations, and the monarch uses them to demonstrate favour, assign duties, or maintain the dignity and structure of the crown.